Hello, Rick. Nice to meet you. Nice having you here. Can you first introduce yourself for the audience?
Sure, Victor. Thank you. Thank you for having me, by the way. Yeah, I'm the Senior VP for Business Partnerships US for Spotlight Sports Group. I'm also one of the founding board members of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. Back in 1998, we established that in order to popularize and raise awareness for fantasy sports. And honestly, we thought that sports betting would flip a couple of years after that. And so we've been waiting for more than 2 decades for what's going on now in the US.
And can you tell us a bit more about your software as a service offering?
Yeah, and I know but SaaS means software as a service, and what it really means is putting the power of development into the hands of, in this case, sports analysts or site producers. So that the thing that clogs up business the most is the inability for you to get through a development queue that's always crowded. So what software as a service does is help with that. So basically, after years of providing services to NBC Sports and Sports Illustrated, FTN Network, and now Fantasy Life from this last summer, we learned quickly that the number of changes that they would need to make to a platform that would fill up our development queue would be a lot. So we began to innovate and create admin tools, if you will. And then in the last 12 months or so, we turned all of those different admin tool types into software as a service. So we can do event hubs, service builds. So when we build FTN daily, that is built by our software, and by them using that software in order to build it. So you can see that from the designs of those 4 properties I just mentioned. They're so different. They're all different. And then we have a games engine, which allows you to basically, once set up, you can create as many games as you want. So whether it's pick'ems, brackets, or unique games like a Super Bowl box pool or a Super Bowl contest or Oscars, Grammys, any of those things can all be created from the games tool. And then we have tools, a tools maker. Basically, it takes all the data from our system and then any data that you upload, and it automatically can create tools. And you can create the design of those tools within it. Think of it as a component to WordPress or as Squarespace. You grab different components and you create your own tools. And then the groundbreaking one was for affiliate management systems. We're now up on 16 sites with software that it does geo-targeting and figures out exactly what the best offers are to put in front of you for sports betting, fantasy sports, and horse racing, and soon to be added apparel, tickets, lottery, etc.
And can you tell us a bit more about how pivotal is SaaS tech actually for user engagement, and how important is it that a company has this as part of its portfolio?
Well, one of the biggest problems is speed to market, right? So what happens is people invent an idea, then they got to put it in their dev queue for 6 months, and then they still have to love it 6 months later when things can change drastically in the marketplace. So what this does is it allows you to go from idea to execution in sometimes a single day or less, especially with the games. You can literally prop them up in an hour. All you need is a graphic and the questions that you want to ask or what kind of time frame you want the pick'em to be in. Those things can go up within hours. And then, it just allows you to be able to ideate as a sports producer instead of as a developer. And it keeps look, I'm a developer. I have a BS in mathematics, BS in computer science, and I developed for IBM for 10 years before I started in this industry, right? So, but get me out of your way, get developers out of your way, and make sure that the sports analysts and the site producers are all making the decisions for themselves and creating these things on the fly.
Thank you. And this your SaaS offering is quick to install. How crucial is this for operators as they move on to adapt to different circumstances?
Well, with experience comes speed also, right? So there's 2 things that you want to do when you're putting a software as a service in. You want to make sure that it connects for your users. So you want to make sure you have user authentication linked up and connected, and you want to make sure that your user base is secure. And then you also want to make sure it matches your look and feel 100%. I mean, it has to look like a seamless operation when you go to our software as a service versus being on Sports Illustrated. So those are the critical components, and I think we handle them better than anybody. Where we can do a setup for you in less than a week, and then you can be off and running with doing everything else yourself after that.
And I've allowed myself to write down a note from one of your interviews, and I'm going to quote what you said in that interview. As the North American sports betting industry matures at a rapid pace, it is imperative that we are able to service our partners as quickly as possible without sacrificing the quality of our products. So, having this in mind, can you tell us more about how have you grown your offering as the US sports betting market evolves and matures?
Yeah. So with these big media partners, with NBC and Sports Illustrated and others, we found very, very quickly that they would want to make changes very often. So, and by the way, we just completed the software as a service about 6 months ago. Like, we just decided these things needed to be, enterprise level products and services that could be attached to any website, any existing website, or built as its own website quickly. And that allows people to move very, very swiftly. And again, an idea today, 6 months from now, could not be a good idea anymore because innovation from others. You need to beat them to the marketplace with your idea. So we allow to go from idea to execution in days.
And you mentioned, for example, 5 years down the line. How do you see? Can you give us a bit more of your predictions? How do you see the US sports betting market develop in the future?
I'm an optimist, right? So I also believe that we can make a big difference in the growth of the sports betting market by paying as close attention to it to make sure that the games are more fun to watch. That's what it's all about. We just recently had FSGA research come out that basically said that people didn't bet because it added stress, it lacked the perceived fun they had, or they didn't know enough. And so we need to educate folks, make sure they understand that it just makes the games more fun to watch. It's not something, you're not losing your mortgage on a Sunday afternoon. So the more that people can understand that, the better. One more really critical point here is that only 60 million people are betting on sports right now. That means that in regulated states that exist, there are 200 million adults who are not betting on sports. So we have a huge market growth there, right? That's over 3 times as many people who are available in the market than are actually using it, right? 54% of those people said that they were sports fans, big sports fans, avid sports fans. So now we know that there's more than 100 million people out there that we can grow this market with in the US. So we're just scratching the surface right now, and that doesn't include California, Texas, and other states that haven't flipped yet. So to me, I think that the future's bright. Maybe it's the optimist in me, but I think the future's bright for sports betting in America.
You mentioned that there's still so many people yet to experience the market. How do we capture these 200 million people?
I'm just going to say we likely do it the same way that we did with fantasy sports. When the trade association started in 1998, there were 1.2 million people playing. Now there are over 70 million people who play fantasy sports. And the way we did that was we educated them on how to play and then how to make the games more fun to watch. So the FSGA has just commissioned an education committee, which I lead, because I would like to really press this. Make sure that everybody understands what are all the terms, what constitutes sports betting, what constitutes a fantasy sports game. And then that way people can understand how they can choose to make the games more fun to watch. Because honestly, that's what it's about. It's about making the games more fun to watch. And so as part of that, people bet and have more fun, and sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. But as long as they're making the games more fun to watch, I don't think the losses are the concern.
All right. And you've mentioned you're the lead of this committee. Can you share what are the biggest hurdles for you to do your work properly?
Well, right now, because a mix of information that comes out from just the internet being the internet means that a lot of people don't understand the simplest things. What is a proposition bet? What does that really mean? A prop. What does all that really mean? What's a parlay? How does that work? All of the lexicon that goes along with sports betting needs to be defined. And so we're building a series of mini sites that then will connect to a main site that describe each of the verticals. They describe sports betting, fantasy sports, a category we're calling hybrid fantasy sports. They're fantasy sports games that people look at and see what looks like a prop, but it's not. And we need to define that properly so that people understand, especially for regulators, legislators, and then for the American people.
All right. Thank you for this answer, Rick. Nice. It was nice having you. Thank you for accepting the interview, and I wish you all the best in your future ventures.
All right. Thanks for having me, Victor.